Hey, Doug, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every week, Todd. Try to record a podcast.
My brain's a rocket, can't sit still. Thoughts collide, they always spill. A million voices shout my name. Never boring, never tame. ADHD, we're running wild. Focus fading, chaotic child. Turn the volume up, take a ride. In this crazy storm, I can't hide.
All right, thanks for tuning in to yet another episode of ADHP with Doug and Todd. I am Todd, and as always, my co-host Doug is on the line. How you doing, Doug?
Hey, Todd, how's it going? I'm moving a little slow over here, to be honest.
Well, at least you won't have to be actively moving around during this recording. You can just sit there and be like,
Yeah, I've been a little under the weather. Didn't get to go out to the protest yesterday that I was hoping to, but I do see a lot of friends and family around the country didn't make it out, and I was proud of them all getting out there again. It's not even been a month. It's just been a few weeks since the last one, so
yeah.
we're out there showing our stuff.
Well, I'm glad you decided to stay home if you were not feeling well, because there's nothing worse than going to a large event like that and then coming home and feeling like maybe someone sneezed or coughed near you, and you're like, oh man. 'Cause-
Well, I didn't want to be the one sneezing or coughing near the large
right,
groups of
that's
people.
what I'm saying. It's like I'm glad you stayed home
Yeah.
because there's nothing worse. Like the worst is like if you go to like a convention and like you're around hundreds of people all day long. There's no 6 foot bubble at these things ever.
Right. Yeah.
And
You can't. You can try it, but you can't.
yeah, so there's always a chance that you can come home with what they call con crud, which is just a combination of whatever the people around you had. You got all of it at the same time, and I hear that this year's con crud for Emerald City was pretty gnarly. So yeah, stay home if you're not feeling well, folks.
Yeah, that is definitely a good life lesson. And if you have to be out, mask up if you got the
Yeah,
sniffles. We need to normalize masking up when you're under the weather. There's no need
yeah,
to share that with people. And which just takes me back to the COVID age when before there was all this vaccine madness where everyone's like, "Oh, I can't believe they're forcing us to take the vaccine." Before that, those same people were saying, "I can't believe they're forcing us to wear masks. This is fascism forcing us to wear masks." And it's like it's just the decent thing to do.
right,
And
yeah,
especially if you're in a time of pandemic, it's such a simple thing to do to help protect the population, even if it's not 100% effective. Like it's the right thing to do.
I mean, covering your mouth when you sneeze or cough is has always been the proper thing to
Right.
do. And wearing a
But
mask is just having that cover all the time instead of like whenever you feel the sneeze or the cough coming on, you cover your face. That's always been a thing. We all know that helps prevent from, spreading, sickness. It's not
yeah,
it's not that weird to think.
yeah, and everything. I was much healthier during that time because everybody was masked up when they went out,
Yeah.
and people weren't spreading the cold as much, and it was nice. And if you look in like Asian countries where they have major concentrations of people, it's already normal to wear a
Yeah.
mask, and people don't look at that as some sort of oppression, though
Yeah.
they certainly have a higher tolerance for oppression, I guess,
Yeah.
given the circumstances that they're forced to be under. Wearing a mask probably doesn't seem as bad, but it shouldn't seem bad to anybody. It should just be normal. So how you been doing, Todd? Did you make it out to the Emerald City or?
I mean, I went out one day, and I think we talked about this before, but I'll mention it again. I went one day on Saturday on that weekend, which was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and
Oh, okay, so we probably talked
yeah,
about it, yeah.
yeah, I think I did mention it, but I met Adam Savage. He was one of the celebrities I wanted to see that day. I was going to try to see Nathan Fillion and Alan Tudyk because those two guys were both there, but the lines for both of them were like across the room.
That's right.
There's a
I remember you
convention hall,
mentioning that.
and it was a massive line. So yeah,
I had heard something about a fire at another con in Seattle.
SakuraCon
wasn't sure.
was this last weekend, yesterday.
See, I get these all. That's what confused me. That's what made me think there was something else since the last time we talked. But it's
SakuraCon
SakuraCon.
is happening this weekend, today and yesterday, and I think Friday, and also NorwestCon, which is a literary sci-fi convention. So they're both happening on Easter weekend. They always happen on Easter weekend.
Bi-monthly science fiction convention,
It's a what?
aka Bi-Mon Sci-Fi Con.
I don't hear. What'd you say?
I said the bi-monthly science fiction convention.
Oh, the bi-monthly.
aka
Okay, I heard man. I'm like, what?
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's
the
just
Bi-Mon Sci-Fi Con.
that's just my ADHD brain trying to process the words that are coming out of your mouth, and it didn't really process. very well.
It's also me having marbles in my mouth. So
okay.
Don't feel bad about it.
So it's like, we're really doing well here. So yeah, the bi-monthly. Well, I mean, at this point, this time of year, there's going to be a bunch of conventions. There's Emerald City happens like in March, always in March, and then SakuraCon and NorwestCon happen on Easter weekend, and I think in May is going to be like there's going to be like the springtime edition of SummerCon at the Puyallup Fairgrounds.
The springtime edition of SummerCon.
Yeah,
I
think that's what they call it. I mean, it's a mini version of what SummerCon is. There's not as much happening at that. They're only using one or two of the buildings as opposed to like the 4 buildings they used last year. They used a lot of the fairgrounds last year. They had a bunch of different celebrity groups of people. There was like the cast of Smallville, and there was a bunch of other words that I can't think of off the top of my head. Oh yeah, Ron Perlman was there. I met Ron Perlman. He was a fucking cool guy. He looked like he was exhausted and wanted to just take a nap, but he was a cool guy.
That's how I feel.
He came up and I go, "Hey Ron, I appreciate you coming in today." He goes, "Well, thank you." I was like, "Well, no, really, I appreciate it because there's a lot of people in this line."
You don't seem like you want to be here, Ron.
I didn't say that. I was just like, I almost said you look tired, but it's like I didn't want to insult the guy. But he looked like, oh God.
No, really, I'm glad you're here. You look like shit, man.
You look like shit, man. I mean, he is at that point he was pushing 80. He's now like 80 years old now. He turned 80, I think, this year. But and there was a bunch of other people I met last year, he was
Hellboy, right?
He was Hellboy, and he was in a bunch of other things too. He was also in the second of the 3 Blade movies. He was in the group that were supposed to be like the hunters of the Daywalker, and he was the one that challenged Blade quite a bit in that movie. It was actually a good movie. And there was a Guillermo del Toro movie too.
Yeah.
So.
Which you could tell because it had the fish guy in it. He's really into fish guys.
Yeah, Doug Jones was definitely in that movie for sure. Yeah, that's another person I'd like to see at a convention is Doug Jones. But
yes, a fellow Doug.
Yeah, you can't get any more like generic in names as Doug Jones.
Yeah, it's practically John Smith. Yeah.
I bet you if you were to look in California for Doug Jones, there would be hundreds of them. So you wouldn't be able to find him.
Oh yeah, thousands if not. Yeah. So getting into today's episode, so I wrote a lot. I did a lot of article searching. I wrote a lot, more than I have so far in any episode. Hopefully, I didn't write too much, but it really set me off this week because what really set me off was Robert F. Kennedy.
Oh man,
Jr.
Yeah, I wanted to punch somebody after watching that video.
Yeah, him coming out and talking about autism as if it's some sort of acquired disease. Yeah. It is just the most ignorant. It's the most ignorant take I could ever imagine.
Yeah,
and we're going to get into that.
He was spouting eugenics, is what he was doing. So
he really was. It was straight up eugenics, and it was straight up conspiracy theory based science denial. and it's stuff that's been disproven, and he's still doubling down on it. But we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that.
Yeah.
First, I want to talk about what autism actually is.
Yep.
So we're
It's
going to do that now.
It's a neurotype. It's not something you catch or get. It's something.
Right.
It's
It's
a
something you're
genetic.
born with.
It's a genetic thing.
genetic.
It comes from
Yeah.
both sides of your parents and
Now, you were diagnosed ADHD?
I was
Is
about 4 years ago I was officially diagnosed with ADHD, but I've known forever that I was ADHD. But in my mind, growing up, ADHD was just like ooh shiny, or just like I'm easily distracted, or which is
Right.
basically the same thing as what I just said. But I've learned over the last 4 years that there's way more to ADHD than just the ooh shiny and hey look a squirrel. Or ADHD is eight hyperactive. Hey, look a squirrel, or whatever that stupid meme was.
right.
But there's like intentive hyperactive, which is what I have. Which is I'm not hyper all the time, but my brain will a lot of times just be running a million miles an hour, and I just will like randomly like stop and go, what was I doing?
Right.
Fuck.
Yeah. Inattentive. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So that happens quite a bit. And the other thing that is pretty prominent in the ADHD people is out of sight, out of mind. Like object permanence is absolutely a thing. If it's not in front of me, it might as well not exist. Like I forget that I was doing that thing because I stopped looking at it. So.
And do you find it to be more of a coping mechanism? Like, is this for things that stress you out, or is it just for absolutely anything?
Anything, and it's not just things, it's people too. So if I don't hear from somebody for a while, I forget that they're in my life.
Yeah, this is why I text you occasionally throughout the week, so you remember I'm here.
It's like, hey, remember me? I'm Doug. I'm like, yeah, I know.
We do a show every Sunday.
Yeah, Doug, I know. Well, the thing is when
it's like you're not Memento. You're not Guy Pearce in Memento. You
right,
don't have short-term memory.
It's not like I forget you exist and then you show up and I go, who are you? No, I remember you when you show up. It's just when you're not in front of me, if I'm not talking to you, I forget that, unless
your brain doesn't need it in the moment. So why
it doesn't
pick up
engage.
that
Yeah, it doesn't engage those thoughts when it's not in front of you. So yeah, anger is a huge thing with ADHD people. Like frustration to the extreme, which it's really kind of falls in line with what is called rejection sensitive dysphoria, where any little thing that like breaks your concentration can cause like a full on meltdown. Like it doesn't happen all the time.
I get this when I'm playing video games.
Yeah, like you're actively doing something. You're focused on this thing, and someone comes up. Hey, did you know where the blah blah blah? And I'm like, what? The fuck? I don't know.
I get some like untamed, like really inappropriate rage at my video games when they don't act the way I think they're supposed to.
Yeah, I get
like
that. I get that too. I've gotten to the point where I was like, I need to step away from this game because it's really starting to piss me off, and I don't want to break anything. And it's not that that's not something that I actively go out of my way to do. I don't like throw my controllers or anything like that. I do have friends who who do that when they're frustrated and angry. Is whatever's in their hand, they throw it, just like fuck this and throw it, and afterwards they're like, oh fuck, now I need to buy a new controller.
Yeah, I will throw something in frustration at a video game, but I have the wherewithal or the awareness to like find something that's like a crumpled up piece of paper or something like that.
Somebody's stuffy that's on the couch.
Yeah. Yes.
But,
I don't completely lose it in that way, but yeah.
No, one of my good friends, that's absolutely what happens to them, and they get very frustrated and just full on rage. And that's another thing with the ADHD rage is not like they want to hurt people or anything. It's just like you feel everything to the extreme, like love, sadness, anger, everything. It's not just a simple thing. And you ADHD people also tend to love bomb. Like if they find somebody they really like, they go all in. Like to the point where sometimes I think it scares people away.
Oh, for sure, for
And
sure. I mean, I'm not diagnosed ADHD like Todd is, but it's still something I've experienced in my life too. The extremes of those what you
and
were just talking about.
honestly, the only reason why I got an official diagnosis is because I was trying to get on disability because of these outbursts that I have. Like I I would have them at work, and that's what would cause me to lose a job. I would get frustrated over something that was beyond my control or within my control, what I thought was in my control, but I would still get frustrated and just kind of, "Rah!" you know, and I would do that. I would express that level of frustration around other people, and they would get freaked out. Like, oh my God, why is he getting this upset? And it's not something I can really control when I get that way. If I acknowledge, if I see it happening, I try to curb it, but I don't always have that foresight to see that it's coming, that it's going to happen because this person is saying or doing this thing that is really agitate me to the degree I want to I want to scream at this person. I want to yell at this person because I'm not a physical guy. I will never ever put my hands on anyone,
Right,
but I will
right.
scream. I will yell, and I have a booming voice, and that can a lot of times really freak people out. Because you
Yeah,
get
I've described something similar as just like a downward spiral where it'll be sparked by something small, and then my brain will just kind
yeah,
of cycle it over and over again until it just makes me more frustrated and upset every single time, and I'm just winding myself up for an explosion
yeah.
sometimes.
So, and the things that will set off the ADHD rage, generally speaking, it's things like breaking that person's concentration. Because if you only understood how hard it is to get focused on anything, when you finally have that focus and then someone breaks the focus, like, oh my God, dude, it took me forever to get to the point where I'm able to fucking do this. What do you want? you know, and
Yeah, and it's the need to communicate. You're trying to communicate something, and yeah, and it always feels awful when you get derailed.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you've noticed the banner image I have on my Facebook, which is like a train that's falling off it's coming off the rails, and it says train of thought. I have written on it across that train, because a lot of times your train of thought will get derailed, and there will be no survivors. You have no idea what you were just doing, and that's part of the reason why it gets so frustrating. And you get angry. That extreme of anger is because anything you were just doing is now gone. It's just there's nothing left of that thought. You
Yeah, and
can't.
it's like I had a great point. I can still remember that it was going to be a great point, but it's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
The whole argument's gone.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not even an argument. It's just whatever you are doing in that moment. You are focused. You are doing this thing. You are getting it done. And then someone says, "Hey, have you seen the newspaper?"
And
Or
you're like, what?
what? And then I go back to what was I just doing? Fuck.
Yeah.
you know, and like the most recent thing I've learned about ADHD is the rejection sensitive dysphoria. That's the most recent of all the things I've learned about being ADHD, which is um, perceived, whether it's real or not, rejection will cause that person to be like, oh fuck, I'm an asshole. No one likes me. Why was I doing that? That's stupid. What the fuck? And just spiraling on that, you know? And or you think that everyone around you are being polite, but they don't really like you. You know what I mean? And
Right. No, and I know you posted something the other day about like here's how a ADH person like sees text responses where it's like you
yeah,
don't respond. Oh, you hate me. You respond with just a thumbs up. Oh, that means you hate me. Oh, you respond with just a short word. That means you hate me.
yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
Absolutely true. And it's like, um,
I get
I
that so
I
much. Yeah.
I work on those types of interactions through text. I don't really get that deep into it anymore. But it's like if I don't hear from people for a while, I think, well, they don't want to talk to me. I
Right.
don't.
It's like either I blame myself for waiting too long, or it's like, did I do something to piss them off, or now I've
Right.
waited too long and had
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
weird. yeah,
And
I get that.
and more often than not, anytime I've ever said, "Hey, if I upset you, I'm sorry," and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Well, I did this.
Exactly.
I said this and this, and I haven't heard from you in like months or weeks. And I figured I said something to upset you." It's like, "No, dude, I'm just busy. I
And now
haven't."
they're upset that I'm telling them that I'm worried that I upset them.
They're like,
Now I think that that's what I'm upset about.
and they're like, "Dude, I have a life and a job." you know, like, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, I get that. It's not about me, I know. You know? And the thing is it's not that like ADHD people are narcissistic or anything. It's just that any 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 kind of like negative, like anything that can be perceived as negative is taken as such, and to the point of like, just I need to do something to cheer myself up because I'm hyper focusing on the wrong thing here, and that's another thing that we'll do. We will, uh, like if, for example, if I'm having a conversation with somebody in a public space like a bar or a restaurant, and we're sitting across from each other, and we're having a conversation, and I'm trying to stay focused at looking at their head, at their face. Just like I'm not looking away. Be things that are happening behind me aren't interesting, but my brain is focusing on those, regardless of how
Right.
much I want to talk to you. And
I got to hear what that sound was about. I just got to hear what that sound was.
I mean, it's the best example is like just being at a Denny's on like a weekend, and you're like hanging out with your friends, and it's like almost 1:30 in the morning, and you're having your gross food that is just delicious, and and
Your
all
moon's
this.
over my hammy, or
Yeah,
your
yeah, whatever it is, it looks nasty, but it's really delicious. And that's probably another that's an autistic thing. Is just food looking not appetizing, but still being delicious. Um, but then your brain is focusing on the conversation three booths over. And what's really bad about that is if the person I'm talking to in a booth or having a conversation with is someone I'm interested in or want to have a relationship with, and then we're just meeting for the first time or even the third or fourth time, I am trying to stay focused on her because I don't want her to think I'm not paying attention or I'm not listening. And often what I will have to do is like, look, if you see my eyes dart left and right, it's because my brain is focusing on the wrong thing, and I'm trying to get my brain to focus on what we're talking about. And it's something that I have to do all the time. It's not like something I can turn off. It's
I used to get so nervous on dates that I would like intentionally focus on other things because I was just so overwhelmed by having to like have the right reaction with the person I'm across the table from.
right. And
It was and those situations didn't go. That there was no second date on those
yeah,
situations.
I mean, I've had situations where I will tell them like, look, I'm listening, but my brain is also focusing on the wrong things at this moment because I'm very ADHD, and I'll let people know that. It's like I am trying to pay attention. If you want to, test if I'm still listening, ask me what you just said, kind of thing. And if I didn't hear it, I will ask you to repeat yourself. And the other thing is, if I ask someone to say what, is because it's not that I didn't hear what you said. It's just my brain didn't process it in a way that made sense to me. Like, uh, I think actually it happened earlier in the call where you said something and I was like, huh? And to me, it is ah ha ha. Is what it sounded like. And it wasn't that you weren't swallowing your microphone or anything like that. That's the way my brain heard it. And when right as you were
Well, we'll listen back afterwards. We'll see how clear I was. I may not have been clear.
re- and just like as you're repeating yourself, my brain goes, there it is. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And you're like, what?
Oh yeah, I've heard this before.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like my dad. My dad will say what, no matter what you say to him. My dad will say what, and
yeah,
then you start repeating yourself, and like you get like 2 words into repeating yourself, and then he'll answer your first thing.
yeah.
Be like,
No,
you just yeah.
well, it's very possible your dad might be a little ADHD then. 'Cause
Oh, he's yeah, OCD, that stuff too.
oh
Like
yeah,
he's
well then,
and that's something. These are a sort of what's the word I'm looking for? A
neurodiverse.
cornucopia. Yeah, but they're a matrix of neurodiversity that tends to go together.
I mean,
And I was
The
Yeah, go ahead.
neurodivergent spectrum it goes all over the place. I mean, ADHD and autism are in there, and so is
Yes, there
OCD.
a lot of
Eh,
people that are. This is something we'll be getting to. Is people with autism a lot of times also have ADHD or other
Yeah,
learning
yeah,
disabilities.
yeah. They all have a lot of crossover between them. And that's there are people who are also. Uh, when I was diagnosed, they said they didn't think I was autistic, but as I've done some of my own um, testing, because self-testing is valid, regardless of what anybody else tells you. It is valid. Not everybody has the 6 grand to get an official diagnosis. And I only did it because I was trying to get on disability because I was not able to keep a job in order to pay rent and pay bills and all those other things. And so, um, but yeah, there are many different types of neurodiverse brains, and they all have their strengths and their weaknesses. And there's a lot of crossover between all the different ones. Like my mom was very OCD. I didn't know that until like she was on her deathbed that she was obsessive compulsive. It didn't click. I mean, I was aware, but it didn't really click. The gravity of her being OCD didn't really hit me until she was on her deathbed. And I was like, "Oh my God, mom, had I been aware that you were legitimately like obsessive compulsive, like not kind of oh I things have to be in the right spot, like obsessive compulsive, like legit, like having to close things certain number of times, that kind of thing. um I would have been like, oh, my mom's just being OCD. I wouldn't have taken it as
Right.
personal as I had. And
And this is something that's going to come up is it's because back in the day it just wasn't you weren't allowed to they didn't know about it or you weren't allowed to have those kind of neurodiverse whether it's autism or OCD or ADHD. It wasn't a thing that people were allowed to have. You didn't talk about it.
well, I
You
mean,
didn't get
yeah,
diagnosed with it.
you didn't talk about anybody in the family who was different, like.
Because there's that meme. I don't know if you've seen the meme where it's like back in my day we didn't have autism, but here's my drawer full of wires organized by length and color.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. I saw that one yesterday. I think you probably shared it.
yeah, and
Um,
that's my dad to a T. Is he has to have like I can't remember what we were doing, but he was over. We were doing something together just recently, and and in the span of like the hangout, he had sorted these random trinkets all into color coordinated piles.
yeah,
Like what?
yeah.
Just for no good reason other than he needed to.
My mom was very particular about things. Like, if she wanted me to do the dishes or to mow the lawn, if I didn't do it the way she would have done, she would have done it right behind me. Like if I
Oh
did,
yeah, I have very strong opinions on how to load the dishwasher that come directly from my father.
you have to put things in this order with the dishwasher.
Yeah,
Or
it's all about maximizing the space and getting the most dishes in there in a way that they will still get clean.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also the tray in the drawer. If they're not in this specific like piles, like if they're just willy nilly in there, she'll be like and she's going in there and sorting things out. And the other thing that used to bug the hell out of me is because she would ask me to mow the lawn and I go do it, and then an hour after I was done, she'd be out there mowing the lawn again. I was like, "Why are you mowing the lawn? I didn't miss anything." She's like, "The lines were wrong." I was like, "What do you mean
It's not the pattern I wanted.
yeah, the lines were wrong. The pattern was not right. I wasn't doing lines. I was doing circles, and it bugged her because like she didn't want a circle pattern in the yard. She wanted it to be straight. And I'm like,
And I definitely get some of this too because like my wife never puts the silverware in the same spots anytime she does the dishes. So it's like you get your big forks, big spoons, little spoons, but it'll always be in different orders. And I'm like, but they have a spot. They don't need to have a spot. I just feel like they do.
right, yeah, yeah. No, it's yeah. So for me to have that realization, like uh, at the end was really sad for me because one, they would have
You
been
wish you had it.
there would have been quite a bit fewer arguments or disagreements or just in general chaos because I'm like, it's not a huge deal. I cut them. They're all the same length grass now, and there's not any pieces that are sticking up. That was what was in my head. It was like, it's all the same length. The pattern in the grass didn't even occur to me as being a thing. It just that the fact that it was all the one length is what I cared about. In her mind, there shouldn't have been swirls in the grass, and she was freaked out by that. And she would have to go in there and fix the swirls so they weren't swirls anymore. And one of the last times that me and her had an argument was because she asked me to come over to fix her computer. Her computer was having problems with pop-up advertisements just taking over the computer, and it was causing the computer to move really, really, really slow. I went over to her house and was dinking around on the computer to try to figure out what was, causing this. And I said, "So, did you install anything right before all this stuff started happening?" She's like, "Yeah, I updated my email program to this new one with all the this email program was like a clone of Outlook, except for that it had like Outlook Express rather. It had where you could have like colored backgrounds, you could have like a pattern on the background, and you could change the fonts, and you can add little animated GIFs to the email." And it was, I was like, okay, that's kind of neat, I guess, but this thing has a bunch of advertisements all over this email client, Mom. I think this might be the problem. So like, well, I don't want you getting rid of that because I like using that. I was like, well, Mom, if it's the problem, we need to get rid of it in order to solve the problem. It's like, you just wanted to make it like the way you like. It's like, no, I'm trying to fix your problem.
Right.
He goes, well, you.
Oh.
And so that caused a massive fight because she was like, you just want it to be like your computer. It's like, well, if my computer, meaning like it works without any issues, then yes. It wasn't that I hated your email program and I wanted to destroy it. The email program was the problem. It was the reason why you were getting serious lag on your computer and pop-up advertisements. Yeah, I got rid of that, and now you have no pop-ups. Do you see how much faster it's moving now? Yeah, but you didn't have to remove that. I was like, yes, I kind of did, Mom, because that was the problem. So
yeah, but didn't like her environment being changed like that.
Yeah, and I understand that. I get that, but it was like, Mom, that's the issue. That was what was causing the problem. And she's like, well, that's just okay, whatever. You just want it the way you like it. I'm like, no. And I said, Mom, next time...
we both want it to work right.
Yeah.
We both want it to work right.
And I told her, like, Mom, next time you have trouble with your computer, call the Geek Squad. Because, they'll charge you hundreds of dollars to do the same fucking thing. And they will not let you yell at them. So...
Right. Well, you should just charge her for the yelling.
No, because she would be like, I'm not paying you. So, yeah, that's why I said, just talk to the Geek Squad, Mom. I don't know. And I actually had to, after that point, was like, I don't know, Mom. I don't know how to fix that. I couldn't be a part of that kind of conversation anymore. So.
All right, you still got me?
Yeah, you're still there.
Okay, my computer the screen just went to black, and now all of a sudden my notes are black screened.
Well, I can see you clicking all over the dock, so it's.
There we go. I just refreshed and now it's back.
Okay.
Okay. So getting into there was, before we do this, and again, not that we haven't cross-talked here enough, but I did want to ask you, you did start getting Social Security disability, is that the case?
Yeah. No, I've had it for going on almost 3.5, almost 4 years, I think.
And with all the Doge cuts and everything going on with Elon, have you seen a reduction in your benefits, or any checks show up late, or not at all?
It's all electronic, and I haven't yet. But then again, they announced this Doge thing after the last time I got paid, so we will see. We will see on the 3rd if I have anything less than what I normally get.
Oh crap!
What?
So, there's a big blank. Oh, weird. All the text is gone, but if I highlight it, it comes back.
Weird. It's fine on my end.
Google Doc is having a glitch.
I think your computer's having a glitchy glitch because it's fine on this end. Try closing out the browser and coming back.
I think it's okay now. I think I got it all back now. So we'll get to this before it disappears again. So what did Kennedy say that pissed us off? Well, here's the quote. So he says, quote, autism destroys families. I can't do a RFK impression.
Yeah, don't do the
but he has-
impression because, then we can be like, they're making fun of the way he talks.
right. And I can't do impressions anyways, as we may or may not
I
have
mean,
learned yet.
all you really gotta do is you gotta like sound like you're really old and like interject some extra air into the conversation when you're talking. I think is how you do it. But you don't need to do that in order to get the point across because he's a dick.
So here's what yes. So here's what Kennedy said. He says, autism destroys families. More importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which is our children. These are children who should not be suffering like this. These are kids who many of them were fully functional and regressed because of some environmental exposure into autism when they were 2 years old. And these are kids who will never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem. And they'll never go on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. And we have to recognize we are doing this to our children. So the two things there that really set me off were the idea that the kids were normal and then regressed into autism at the age of 2, and that we think we're doing this to our children.
Right.
So before I go further into that, I will say I did want to go what is autism actually? So autistic people may, and this is coming from the UK's National Health, the NHS in UK. So autistic people may find it hard to communicate and interact with other people. They may find it hard to understand how other people think or feel, find things like bright lights or loud noises overwhelming, stressful, or uncomfortable.
Facts.
Get anxious or upset about unfamiliar situations and social events.
Yep.
Take longer to understand information, or do or think the same things over and over. So what it's not is autism is not an illness. It does not mean you have an illness or a disease. It means your brain works in a different way from other people. It's something you're born with.
It's a different
Signs of autism.
It's a different operating
go ahead.
system. It's the equivalent of the difference between an iPhone and an Android. They do the same fucking thing. They just do it differently.
And signs of autism might not be noticed when you're very young, or they might be noticed when you're very young, or not till you're older.
Yeah.
And if you're autistic your whole life. There's no cure. That's something to look for.
It doesn't go away. It doesn't get better as you get older. It doesn't get worse as you get older. Although, actually, I don't know. I think in some ways it does get worse because your body starts to fall apart, at some point, and then so things that would
everything gets worse as you get older. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not a thing of it's not caused by the autism. It's just autism might exasperate those other things that get worse.
Autism is a spectrum. It's different for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone with autism is different.
Yep.
And what Kennedy described was some of the most severe cases of autism where there are people that need that level of care.
Yeah.
But autistic people can live a full life.
Yep.
It doesn't have to stop you from living a good life. Autistic people have things they're good at as well as things they struggle with. It doesn't mean you can never make friends or have relationships or get a job, but you might need extra help with these things.
Yep.
So how many autistic people are there? So there's definitely more than 1% of the population, and that number is going up as we learn more about it, as we become more aware, as it becomes more socially acceptable to diagnose a person as having autism. I know Kennedy would use he's calling it an epidemic lately of an explosion of autism diagnoses, but that's just because we're accepting of it now. We're acknowledging of it. We're not just sending people we're not chaining kids in the attic because they're different anymore.
Right.
And people of all ages, genders, and ethnicities can be autistic.
Yep.
But people from marginalized groups can face more barriers to getting a diagnosis because of lack of awareness about the true diversity of autistic people.
Yep.
And it's understood as a spectrum. At one point, people thought a spectrum was a straight line between more and less autistic, but that's not the understanding anymore.
Yeah,
today we understand.
I was just gonna say that people thought like, well, where are you on the spectrum? Are you really autistic or are you kind of autistic? It's like it doesn't work that way. That's not how it works.
Right. Today, we understand the spectrum to mean each autistic person has a unique combination of characteristics,
Yep.
and they can be very different from each other with different sets of strengths and challenges. And I misspoke earlier. Autism is not a learning disability or a mental health condition, but around a third of autistic people also have a learning disability.
Yeah,
So that's what I was trying to say.
it is definitely something that happens probably more frequently with people who have other disabilities as well. But I like I said, I don't know if I've said this or not, but I will say that I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I went to school. I went to special ed from the time I was in kindergarten all the way up through high school. And I was in a lot of special ed classes, but I was also in some normal classes too, air quotes, normal. Um, Typical classes, maybe is the right word. So, in some classes I did really well in, and other classes not so much. Like some of the typical classes that I was in were like gym class or like small engines or metal shop. Those are classes you probably don't have in school anymore. Um, but I mean, we didn't have computer classes when I was growing up. We had computers in our classrooms, but they were for um, uh, you know,
Typing.
typing class was what they were used for. So it was, we didn't do programming in school. We did like learning how to use a typewriter. So if you ever had to do like an office job, you were able to do it, um, and things like that. But yeah, no, it's um, a lot of the classes that was in were what they called resource classes, which is
Mm-hmm.
it was a
And that's what my kids are in.
smaller number of students, and there's always at least one or two like teachers aides, which are like other teachers or like other students that help out with the class.
And I think what we're trying to say here, and I think this is the most important point, especially in refutation of RFK, is that autism is a natural variation in people.
Yep.
It's just, and this is why I say that to some extent we're all on the spectrum. It's just what do
No,
your
no, no, no. Don't ever say
what,
we're all a little bit autistic. Don't do that.
well, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it's a natural variation in people, so everyone has characteristics, and I think we're all a bundle of our variations,
I,
and autism is just one is a particular collection or cluster of variations
I,
that gets diagnosed.
I will say
But
this:
go ahead. Yeah.
there was a mutual of ours that once said, "Wow, everyone does that." It's like, no, they really don't. And it's people that do this are the ones who are on the spectrum. Neurotypicals do not do these things. They do not have a running dialogue in their head all the time. There's not always something playing in their head, whether it be dialogue or music or whatever. That is not
I
something
wonder about that. I don't know. I
that
wonder about that.
that's not something that happens with neurotypicals. I've talked to people and they go, "No, I don't have music playing in my head all the time." Um, so this person months later comes up to me and goes, "Hey, I wanted to apologize to you for saying everyone is a little bit like that. I realized after I talked to you and I seen a few of the videos that you shared on social media that I did some research and discovered that I'm probably a little bit on the spectrum." I was like, "Yeah, that's the only time with these specific things that we were talking about." And I'm trying to remember what they were. Um, I was like, neurotypicals don't do that. They just don't. And you ask anybody know that is, if you suspect someone is not being on the spectrum, whether it be ADHD, autism, or whatever it is, if you suspect that they're just a neurotypical person, ask them, "Hey, do you ever do this or that? The things that you do on a regular basis." And if they say no, that's why, because it's not a normal thing for the typical person. It is something that only neurodiverse people do. And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, I see that now, and I understand why you got so frustrated with me when I said, well, everyone does that." I was like, "No, they really don't." And so those who think that typically, if they get themselves tested, find out that they are neurodivergent.
Now that's a really excellent point, and this is why I wanted to do this show with you,
Yeah.
because I know you yeah, and I guess something that I'm getting at is one thing that I think everybody does do, but is a particular it's something we only call it out when someone with autism does it, which is masking. I think everybody masks.
Yeah.
I think when a neurotypical masks, it's called self-presentation. And there's a whole, if you look, something I would love everybody to research is
Yeah.
Goffman's presentation of self.
I think
And
the difference is neurotypicals will mask because they're hiding something.
Well, I think everybody has an idea of who they are in their minds or who they would like to be.
Meaning
And
that they're doing it to deceive other people. Neurotypical people, neurodivergent people mask because they don't want anyone to think of them as weird.
Right. It's all about covering. It's covering up a self, some sort of self. I don't know how to say this correctly, but uncertain, like things that you're not proud of yourself, and you're trying to, and it's just you wanting to present a certain way. And I think, and it's only masking when it's applied to somebody with autism or a neurodiverse.
Yeah, neurodiverse people don't do it. Neurotypical people don't do it as a mechanism for being accepted by society. They're doing it because they're purposely trying to trick somebody into something.
Well, I would disagree with that, and I know you don't have the training on Goffman that I had, because I think that's something to go into in a future episode. Is basically everybody is putting on a play in a sense. Goffman goes into a very dramaturgical way of talking about the presentation itself. It's also very old. It's from 1950, so it probably is out of date in many ways.
Yeah.
But people, even if you're not trying to deceive people still, they want to put on. Some people will call it virtue signaling in a way. I personally think virtue signaling is a good thing, because we should signal our virtues rather than just try and evolve into our base drives, like
right.
It's
like when people if you're being if you're being nice to people, people call you woke. Like that's what you don't think empathy is a good thing. I mean, you don't think that. I mean, if you want to go into like religion and stuff with Christ, that's what he was doing. He was being empathetic of other people. He helped the sick and the poor. You would if you saw someone dressed if you saw him today, you probably think he was a woke foreigner. So yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. And then the next point here is that autistic people bring unique qualities and diverse perspectives to the workplace. However, only a third of autistic people are in any kind of paid employment. So what we get to with Robert Fuckhead Kennedy, which I don't know if you knew this, but that's what the F in RFK stands for, is fuckhead.
I thought it was fucktard.
He, in addition to his whole thing of saying that autism is somehow acquired, while he's been HHS Secretary, he's slashed the budget for the Department of Health and Human Services, which includes the NIH, the CDC, and other government health organizations that oversee food and drug safety and conduct disease research. So, and in order to do that, he has to deny that autism is a naturally occurring thing, because we've already established that if you even take him for his word that there are these severe cases of autism, people need the help. You can't, on one hand, say that. You can't on one hand say that this exists, and then on the other hand say you're going to cut all their services.
Right.
And so and if only a third of them are able to get jobs, then obviously we need to do something to help take care of people that aren't able to work for themselves. And the only alternative, if you take Robert F. Kennedy's position, is some sort of eugenic annihilation of people with autism.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. And that's where I really get pissed off about it.
Yeah.
And he's using, so like he says, quote, "We're going to look at vaccines, but we're going to look at everything. Everything is on the table, our food system, our water, our air, different ways of parenting, all the kinds of changes that may have triggered this epidemic." So again, different ways of parenting, as if you could parent somebody out of autism. It's and yes, the rate, as we discussed, has gone up. It's almost 3% in 8-year-olds now, which they'll point to as some sort of environmental factor. But I say, look at left-handers. I'm a left-hander. I'm a lefty.
Yep.
If you look at the chart for left-handedness from the Victorian age up through the 20th century, what you see is a giant rise and then a plateau.
I remember when I was in elementary school, teachers teaching left-handed kids how to write right-handed.
Oh yeah, my grandma used to try and get me to be right-handed because she thought left-handedness was of the devil.
Yeah, I didn't hear stuff like that. I just heard that there was something inherently wrong with writing left-handed. So
yeah, and it's the same way with like LGBTQ plus people, where it looks like everyone's it's a fad now. People are in a fad, and it's like, no, it's more socially accepted. People are able to admit it now.
They're not hiding anymore. They used to be that they were hiding. That's why you didn't see as many gay people, is because they were fucking scared for their life.
Exactly. And now that they can be out,
yep.
You're going to see a raise in it, and it's not because of environmental factors.
Yeah.
So that's
I got into a massive argument about 3 or 4 months ago with someone about trying to say that environmental factors is what's caused autism and ADHD. It's like, no, that's not how that works. I've always been this way. There's nothing new or different about me over the years that has caused me to be this way. I've always been this way. The only difference between now and 50 years ago is they didn't know what the hell was wrong with me 50 years ago. I was going to the doctor's office on a regular basis when I was a little kid because they were trying to diagnose me. They were trying to figure out what it is that is going on with me, because physically I have some issues, but I also have some, cognitive issues as well. So they were trying to figure out, and my mom thought possibly that I was, I don't remember what they call it now, but it used to be called fetal alcohol syndrome.
Okay, yeah.
It's called something different now, and there's a new term for it. But
that's how I still know it as. But yeah.
But so she was trying to get me diagnosed with FAS, and so they said, no, he's not FAS. There's other.
You don't look like it at all. It has very clear like genetic morphology to it.
It's very similar to Downs in some ways. There's some similar traits with the face and stuff like that. But yeah, no. They didn't know how to. Todd has learned. He's got mild cerebral palsy in his left side, in his left hand, but he's also got learning disabilities. But beyond that, they didn't know. They didn't have a name for it. It wasn't until, like I said, 4 years ago that I got the official diagnosis of ADHD with depression and anxiety. So.
And we're still learning so much about these different neurodiverse things, because like my younger stepson has a chromosomal issue that they've been able to identify. It comes up in such a small percentage of people that there really isn't any research on it, and they don't have a name for it, and they don't really know what it is, other than it's something they're like, oh, okay, we've seen this a couple of times before, and his traits are in line with what those other people were like. But it's so new that we don't know what to do. And it's been an impediment to getting him proper services, because you can't put a name to it, you can't advocate for it as well. And then getting back to RFK, he talked about how we're gonna look at everything, but he had to say we're gonna look at everything because everybody knows he has repeatedly throughout his adult life said that vaccines cause autism. Yeah. He most recently repeated it in a 2023 Fox News interview. And it comes from this discredited UK doctor named Andrew Wakefield, who had a 1998 study in The Lancet, which The Lancet eventually retracted. And multiple studies since across many countries have concluded that there is no link between vaccines and autism. But I point out that he specifically specified 2 years old. And the reason why he links vaccines and autism and the age of 2 years old is because 2 years old is how old is like the minimum age a child needs to be before you could actually diagnose them with autism, because prior to that, they're too young for you to know. If a kid's not verbal or if he has other behavioral signs of autism, he might just be a kid when he's a year old or a year and a half old.
Yeah.
You can't really know for sure until they're 2. The
Yeah.
other thing that happens when you're 2 years old, at least in America, is that's when you get a bunch of your booster shots. So these two things are like, you can't diagnose autism prior to 2 years old, and you also happen to get a bunch of booster shots when you're 2 years old. Therefore, in Kennedy's mind, oh, that means the vaccines, the boosters are causing the autism.
Yeah.
It's absolute saying, it's conflating correlation and causation.
Right.
And to do it at the level that now he's the HHS secretary it's horrifying. It's disgusting.
Right.
He's already gotten people killed. We're looking in Texas. We've had a second death from the measles already, and not saying that he went into Texas and told people not to take vaccines, but the whole idea that vaccines are dangerous is something he's championed, and
Yeah.
he's set up the world this way. He also went to Samoa. I forget what year it was, but in America, Samoa, he brought his anti-vaccine campaign to American Samoa. And within months of him having done that, they had a breakout of 83, is in 2019. In an island nation of 200,000 people, more than 5,700 people were infected, and 83 people died, most of whom were young children. And even their Ministry of Health cited Kennedy's visit and his rhetoric as exacerbating the vaccine hesitancy at a crucial moment.
Yeah.
It was his nonprofit that does this, right? It's Children's Health Defense. It contributed to the atmosphere of mistrust just months before the outbreak.
Oh.
And that just underscores what a person in his position is able to do. He can have a positive effect or a negative effect, and he's choosing to embrace a misappropriation of science and a misrepresentation.
I found the current term for FAS. It is not. It's now listed as fetal alcohol spectrum disorder.
Okay.
So that's the current term for it. But yeah, no, he's. I'm looking forward to the day when he gets fired from his job, and we don't have to deal with this shit no more.
And if our reading of Trump is right, that he just basically is trying to cause chaos in America and divide us more and hurt our population, I don't think Kennedy's ever going to get fired until we get rid of Trump.
Yeah, good point.
Another thing Kennedy has done is he hired David Geer, and this guy has been described by some as a conspiracy theorist he's going to be the guy that researches vaccines and autism. So Kennedy says he's going to solve what happened, that we are going to know what causes autism by September, 5 months from now. Like, that's what he says he's going to do, which tells me that this conspiracy theorist who has he was basically fined by the state of Maryland for practicing medicine without a medical degree or license, and he prescribed dangerous treatments to autistic children. Like, I don't know if he was directly involved, but we've seen children die from chelation therapy, which is where you try to extract heavy metals from the blood because they thought the mercury in vaccines was causing autism, and children have also been suffocated to death via holding therapies. And now I'm not saying this guy has necessarily anything to do with those particular cases. I did not look that up specifically, so I'm not denying that he has anything to do with it either. But he is now the guy that's going to be researching vaccines and autism. So come September, and if we're still doing this show, we will cover it then. Yeah. They are going to come out with some absolute bullshit reason why autism exists, and then they're going to use it to invade our lives in some way or another. Yeah. So we'll put a pin in that, and we'll get back to that in a few months. Kennedy also he has misleading claims on fluoride in drinking water.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Fluoride is a naturally occurring mineral recognized to protect teeth against decay. It's added to the water supplies in many countries, including about 63% of the U.S. And then Kennedy has long campaigned against the practice. He claimed in a recent post on X that Trump as president would be advising all U.S. water systems to remove fluoride from public water, which is just going to ruin kids' teeth. That's all it's going to do. Fluoride in the drinking water is not in concentrations high enough to cause any of the problems that Kennedy would suggest occurs from fluoride. It is perfectly safe, and it's only beneficial to humans.
Yeah.
And that's really what I wanted to say on Kennedy. Is he is absolutely a con artist he was grifting on this for years, the same way Jenny McCarthy was, using this to scare parents into hiring his chair, supposedly what would we call it, the children's health defense. Like it's just a grift. It's just for attention and money, and it's harmful. It's incredibly harmful, and we should not ever stand up for this, or we should be standing up against it. So that's my piece on RFK.
Yeah, I don't like Jenny McCarthy for that reason.
Yeah, it's been hard to. Yeah, I'm glad she's not really around in the public eye anymore.
I mean, she is. She's on that Masked Singer, and I actually really like the show. But I can tolerate her being on the show because other things are happening.
And sure,
it's not
let
about
her be an actress. Let her be whatever she wants to do there, as long as she's not giving her political opinions.
Yeah. We don't hear her spouting stupid shit other than her stupid guesses about who the singer is. But yeah.
So that was a little bit of elongated opening topic. So we're gonna move through the weekly politics news here pretty quick. It's a lot of more of the same because Trump is just on his campaign to absolutely. They are clearly trying to just make anybody who isn't a white American feel like they're at risk. It is a whitewashing of America. I know I've beat this drum before.
Keep beating that drum until someone finally says we need to do something about it.
Yeah, until he's finally impeached for this crap, because he's doing things without due process. He's ignoring the Constitution, and I can't see even Republicans, unless they're gonna make him prime minister and do a Putin thing where Trump is never out of power. I don't see how they can tolerate this when they finally are not in power, because I assume one day they won't be. Yeah. But before we get to those items, I do want to talk about real quick, because we're a Seattle area-based podcast.
Yep.
There's a new Boeing jet meant for a Chinese airline. It's been returned to the U.S. because of the ongoing trade war. So that's, just it's great for our country that we can't sell planes to China anymore. And then also medical journals have been getting letters from Trump's DOJ threatening them and saying that they want to review how they respond to whether the publication is partisan when it comes to various scientific debates. So one group here that recently got this was CHEST, which is it's the American College of Chest Physicians. So they had received a letter, and it said in an email that its attorneys were reviewing it and added that the letter's content was posted online without their knowledge. So that means they're threatening these physicians, and they're posting it online because they're really just trying to score political points with their base, saying, hey, look at us bully these nerds, right? Look at us. And the things they want them. Yeah, and it's basically, this is published numerous articles that were breakthroughs in scientific research and clinical treatment, advancing the medical profession and improving the health and well-being of patients worldwide. CHEST adheres to the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors and the COPE ethical guidelines for scholarly publishing, applying strict peer review standards to ensure scientific rigor. But what the Trump administration wants is they want them to explain how they deal with criticisms and how. The letter said, I am interested to know if publishers, journals, and organizations with which you work are adjusting their method of acceptance of competing viewpoints. They go through peer review.
Yeah.
If you don't just get to have a contrary opinion and get that published as if it went through peer review. You can get your competing viewpoints sent through peer review, and then they can be discussed with it. But what they want is they want anybody saying, well, I feel this. I feel like it should be this. It's basically like saying if you're an evolutionary journal, you should have to consider intelligent design. It's that whole argument again. It doesn't if you believe in all this science, then you need to include an article on what if God did it. Like, what if God wants it to be this way? And they're just trying to make it so that our medical journals are less trustworthy and have to, and if they can get the opposition into the medical journal as some sort of here's what others are saying type of segment, then the people that run with that have the ability to go, well, this appeared in this prestigious journal. You have to take us seriously now because it's in this journal, and it's about laundering. I wanted to say laundering poor science, but it's not even science. It's laundering religious and other private opinions through actual medical journals. What they're trying to accomplish.
Could you call it pseudoscience?
Even that, yes, but even that is almost giving it too much credit because it's really just people. It's really just people wanting to say whatever they. If you don't feel good about what the science says, they should have to publish a response to it.
Bad opinions, yeah.
Yeah. And then the remaining stories are all about international students or researchers who are having their visas terminated because of minor infractions, or simply we don't know in some situations why they're having their visas terminated. Fortunately, in one situation, there's a University of Wisconsin-Madison international student with a terminated visa. A judge says they cannot be deported for now.
That's good.
Meanwhile, the U.S. is telling Harvard that they need to comply or lose permit to enroll international students. And Harvard has recently stood up to the Trump administration's after initially being willing to comply with some Trump administration regulations. The Trump team just added more on top of that, because if you give a fascist an inch, they will take the next 10 miles. And Harvard stood up and said, no, we're not doing that. And it has been ruled illegal in every case ever that the government can't use funding to try to coerce any entity into behaving a certain way. And we have another international student who had their visa revoked just days after getting a new job. And hundreds of foreign students in the U.S. with degrees, jobs, and legal status are suddenly in legal limbo, while the international talent that fuels labs and startups at universities across the country are under threat from the Trump administration's massive deportation effort and its crackdown on students who participated in pro-Palestinian protests. This is coming from CBS News. And the people are saying it just feels like you're less welcome in this country as time goes on. And that's ultimately what they're trying to insinuate. They're trying to create it. It's not, don't come here, go work elsewhere. And That's harmful for our country. And it's also just them being xenophobic. Like, it's just this great xenophobic effort.
Yeah.
To try and identify anybody who, if you so much as jaywalk and you're on a visa, they want you gone, because they don't really care about what's happening, what you're up to. They just want to make the country less foreign.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I love that America has a lot of foreign people in it. It feels like a Star Trek type future, right? Like, obviously we're so far away from that, but
yeah. I don't see us having a Roddenberry type future in my lifetime. I would love to see that though.
And then the last story for the week is revisiting a story we brought up a few weeks back, which is, I don't know if you remember this, Todd, but I talked about a Russian scientist that was working at Harvard who had been detained at the airport, and she had been detained for a couple weeks, and it looked like things were going to resolve. But it turns out she's still in detention. She's been moved to the Louisiana Immigration Detention Center. I assume that's the same one that they took Mahmoud Khalil to, and she's been there for 2 months now, after officials at Boston's Logan Airport revoked her visa for failing to declare a frog embryo sample that she was carrying from France at the request of her boss. So this is coming from A Mighty Girl on Facebook. These samples, crucial for her lab's work studying how cells can rejuvenate themselves and reduce the damage from aging, had previously thawed when they had been mailed before. So the doctor asked Ksenia Petrova to bring them back during her vacation, a decision he now deeply regrets because Ksenia's customs error would normally be considered a minor infraction, punishable by a $500 fine. Instead, it has resulted in deportation proceedings, with Immigration and Customs Enforcement twice refusing her lawyer's petition for parole, claiming that she is a threat to U.S. security and a danger to the community. Now, this is extra problematic because she was someone in Russia who had criticized Putin's invasion of Ukraine and protested against Putin. So she fled Russia in 2022, and if she is sent back to Russia, they will probably imprison her again. She may face up to 15 years in prison, if not more, if not, secret death in prison, as the Russians sometimes do. See Alexei Navalny.
Yeah.
So her attorney argues that customs officials overstepped their authority in canceling her visa rather than simply imposing the standard fine, and her previous arrest in Russia and social media activity will almost certainly ensure a nice, hefty jail sentence for her if she is deported back to Russia. So again, they're using terrorist tactics, really. Social terrorism is what I would call it, in order to make it so people don't want to come to America anymore. And that's going to hurt us in the long run. We are strong because of our diversity.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
And yeah, and it's just the more people from different places you have working on the issues, the more likely you are to find to solve a problem. But they aren't really concerned about solving problems, the Trump administration. They're more worried about using problems to their political benefit.
Yeah.
And they're ultimately, my fear is they're going to try and repeal the entire 20th century. They're going to undo the New Deal. They're going to undo all the civil rights progress, and they want us to be some sort of Russian-style fascist government that only, eventually we're going to see that only white landowning men are going to be able to vote again. That's where we're headed. So
yeah,
that's my rant for the week, and I know I definitely need a palate cleanser now.
Yes, absolutely, and I have that for us. I was noticing some things this last week, and it really kind of got slapped in my face yesterday because I hadn't been really paying attention too much. I knew that it was going to happen. I didn't realize it was already happening. But Star Wars Celebration is an annual thing. This year it happened in Japan, and it's a Star Wars convention, like a Comic-Con style convention, but it's all Star Wars. And they had a bunch of announcements for upcoming projects that are coming. One of which was a animated series for Darth Maul called Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord, and it will bring back the actor who played him in the Clone Wars, and I'm trying to remember his name because my brain is not wanting to tell me.
Is that not the actor who played him in the episode 1?
No, the you know what? I know the name of the guy who did that. That was Peter Serafinowicz. But it's Sam. Oh shit, where is it?
Now, are we talking strictly the guy who voiced him?
Sam Witwer.
Yeah,
Sam Witwer, who was the voice of him on the Clone Wars and Rebels, and the actor who played him did not voice him in the Phantom Menace.
Right, because wasn't that the same guy who played Toad in the original X-Men movie?
Yep.
Yeah, Ray Park.
Ray Park. And I met him. He is so nice. I met him back in 2013 at Emerald City Comic Con, and I won't get into that story, but next time. Remind me sometime later to tell you the Ray Park story. But so Sam Witwer, who played Maul in Clone Wars and reprised it in Rebels, is coming back as the iconic villain. And I'm excited because, number one, that is such a badass character. Why was he killed in the first of the new trilogy? They should have never killed him off. They should have had him in the other two movies. Whatever. That was
Right, because because George Lucas had to fuck that up, I think.
George Lucas has his own vision on things, and as we know, doesn't um, George doesn't have the ability to say, okay, that's enough. I've done enough with this thing, and it is what people like and want to see. I'm not going to mess with it anymore. He continued to mess with the original trilogy all the way up until like the early 2000s. So, all the way through like the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s, he was tweaking and making adjustments to those first three movies. Speaking of which, for the first time in 48 or 47 years, the original Star Wars movie, not A New Hope, it was just called Star Wars. Back in 1977, it was just called Star Wars. And this version of the film is getting a re-release of sorts, only in one place for one day, one time.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it says here, seemingly impossible has happened, and perhaps Mustafar has frozen over. George Lucas's original theatrical version of Star Wars will soon have a theatrical screening, according to the Hollywood Reporter. The British Film Institute Film on Film Festival in June will open with the screening of Lucas's 1977 classic, according to the report. This is one of the few original telecolor prints still in existence. December 1978 was the last time this print of the original Star Wars movie was ever shown. This will be the first time this version of the Star Wars has been a theatrical showing in nearly 47 years. Now,
so by unaltered, they mean it doesn't have any of the like the 90s added effects
it's not going to even
any other.
It's not even going to have the THX sound, man. It's going to have stereo sound.
Wow.
So, yeah, I actually have a copy of this because Fox Entertainment in I think the late 90s released all three of the original theatrical versions of the film along with the special editions, like right before they re-released the films in theaters and right before episodes 1, 2, and 3 came out. And I bought those immediately because it's like I'm not gonna waste time. I'll get it later. It'll be around. I did that with the VHS copies back in the 80s. I wanted my mom to buy copies of them, and they were expensive at the time, and she wasn't gonna do that. And so I still watch that version of the movie whenever I watch Star Wars or Empire or Jedi. I watch those versions of the movie. I don't watch the special editions. I never have. I watched them once when they were in theaters, and I mean they looked nicer. They were crisper in their special effects. I didn't really care about the extra scenes as much. After seeing what they did with the extra scenes, like, okay, that was dumb. They should have just never added that. I'm specifically talking about the adding of Jabba the Hutt in Star Wars. It's big in towards the beginning of the movie. In the original footage, it's just an old British, Scottish looking dude, thick accent, wearing like fur pelts as his outfit.
Is that actually in it, or was it cut out of the original and they added the scene back in when they edited it?
It was never in the theatrical release. It was something that was
a deleted scene, essentially.
It was essentially a deleted scene. It was something that was available if you ever had a copy of the making of Star Wars. It was a part of that. And
okay, because I was always confused. I remember when the special editions came out and they talked about that scene and how they edited Han, I guess it was, like stepping up over his tail.
Yeah,
that wasn't ever there.
He walked behind the guy, but because they want him to look like the Slug, they digitally made him step on his tail, and it looks goofy as hell every time I seen that.
Yes.
It's like
South Park animation.
It really is. I mean, I was trying to think of a way to explain how it was very choppy looking, and it was just it was a nice scene to have in there, but because of how goofy that looked, it kind of took me out of it. So I remember seeing, I think it was like 1978 when my mom rented the original movie, 35 millimeter, I think, from the library in Kent, and got the movie and the making of the movie on two different, I think, two or three different reels. And I remember watching the movie in our living room. I remember that more than I actually remember seeing it in theaters. Because I was like 5 or 6 when the original movie came out.
That's
And
you guys had a 35 millimeter reel to reel type of deal.
she rented it from the library.
You rent the whole package,
Yeah,
like the.
she got
That's dope. That's
she got
actually pretty cool.
she got the projector and the film, I think, from the library. And I'm pretty
God,
sure.
libraries are amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
That's something else they're gonna take away from us if we're not careful.
yeah, yeah. Well, but so I remember seeing that in the movie, and it was before we even saw Jabba the Hutt, so I didn't know who he was until years later when I saw that clip again where they added that scene into the movie. I was like, oh, that was supposed to be Jabba. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because when they talked about it, I was like, and they would show the old version of the scene. I was like, who is this guy? What is this supposed to be? I don't remember. Like I was like, was I supposed to have seen this before? Like I was so confused
So
as a kid.
as it was said in the documentary, the making of the movie, that this was a scene that Lucas wanted to have in the movie, but it was cut because of budgetary things and special effects just weren't. He was a stand-in for the character of Jabba the Hutt. He wasn't actually Jabba the Hutt. But he played the part in that scene, because they weren't sure how they were going to do, if he was going to be like a costume character or if he was going to be like a different type of alien or whatever. So they said that it was cut because of just, there wasn't enough money to have what he wanted in that scene. So they just cut it. And so years later, when he had the funds to do all the cool special effects. And there's actually video online of the two different versions of that special edition. The original version of the special edition where they added that scene, where they added the slug version of Jabba in there, and then they showed like the one from like 10 years ago that they remastered. The graphics went from looking like a PlayStation 1 like sprite. It was really terrible looking, to like a PS3 version of the same thing. It was still kind of, really. It was the graphics were limited, but they were cool for the time. So, but yeah, that's getting a one-time showing in the UK. Lucky bastards. I wish I could go. I would absolutely love to see it in theaters again. The next thing I wanted to talk about was Ryan Coogler. Apparently is doing a reboot, not a another revival. It's going to be an entirely different. I would say call it a different universe, like going to have the same characters but played by different actors, kind of thing. He's gonna be doing X-Files. And
X-Files. I was gonna say, did you say what it was?
I'm sorry.
X-Files.
I was just like trying to get through what I was trying to say. Says amid all the vampire hubbub surrounding Ryan Coogler's new vampire thriller Sinners, starring Michael B. Jordan, the director wants to remind folks that his long-teased X-Files reboot is still on his to-do list, and it's at the very top of that list, in fact. Speaking on a recent episode of a podcast that I'm not going to mention here, Coogler said his plans to hit the ground running working on the X-Files once the dust has settled from his Sinners press tour. I'm working on X-Files. That's what's immediately next, Coogler said. So I've been excited about that for a long time. I'm fired up and to go back to it. And that, some of those episodes, if we do our jobs right, will be really fucking scary. So it sounds like he's not gonna.
It's gonna be a series.
It's gonna be another series, yeah. It sounds
Well,
like
that's
anyway.
exciting because Ryan Coogler does great work. I mean, I like pretty much. I haven't seen Sinners yet. I'm
I
thinking
haven't
about
either.
going to the.
I want to go see it. I'm gonna probably see it on Tuesday if I can. Um,
Are you going to the IMAX then? Because I think it's only playing at like eight. Well, there's 8 places where it's being shown in 70 millimeter, and then a few more places where it's being shown in the IMAX.
I
And Seattle Center is one of them, but that's like the only place in our area is at the Pacific Science Center.
oh, I don't know. I wasn't planning on seeing an IMAX. I don't know if I want to watch a vampire film in IMAX to be perfectly honest. But I do like vampire films. Um, Although knowing it's in IMAX, maybe I should wait till I have a little bit more money to see it in IMAX. But I was planning on just seeing it at the Regal Theater here in Renton on Tuesday.
Is
'Cause
it showing there?
I don't know. Whenever it starts playing, I'm gonna go see it on the following Tuesday because that's when the cheap tickets
Gotcha.
are. So
Gotcha. Yeah,
yeah.
because what I was just reading about this morning, I think it was, is that it's currently only in eight theaters nationwide, plus a handful of others for IMAX.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's some sort of, it's because it's done in this really new 70 millimeter type of filming that's supposedly some sort of somehow the pinnacle of digital filming, and the IMAX versions have a new screen ratio of like 1.43 to 1. And I don't know what that's supposed to mean exactly, but it's interesting.
I do know this. It sounds like this is going to be like a complete reboot. Like it's going to be a different universe. Like I said, it's not going to be the same people. But we do know that Gillian Anderson has gone on record saying that she wants to be a part of it. So I don't know if she's going to play Scully or not. But it will be cool to see her in it, regardless if she's playing the same character she was, like 6, 7 years ago when they did seasons 10 and 11 back in 2018. Um,
Yeah, I missed that revival.
yeah, I mean it's you can find it online. I think it's on. I think it's on Netflix. Seasons 10 and 11 are on there. I think.
I'll have to check it out.
But I don't know if they're gonna do like a really scary version of it. I'm down with that. I think the original series was pretty terrifying in that some of the things that they showed were like there was a lot of times where I'm watching and oh my god, just like I wasn't expecting that to
The
pop up on
the
the screen.
earlier Yeah, the earlier X-Files it was really a almost a horror type of
Yeah,
show.
and then like
It,
the
it was
first
very suspenseful. It was definitely scary, and it became. I felt it like kind of became sillier as it went on.
yeah, I think that's when they moved production from Vancouver down to L.A. is when that happened.
And I don't know if Vince Gilligan was still a part of it at that point or not.
I don't know. I don't know that name, but
Vince Gilligan,
yeah.
he's writing Star Trek, writing X-Files episodes was kind of where he made his name as a
Okay.
writer,
Okay.
and then he went on to create and write Breaking Bad.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and because I kind of mentioned last week that I kind of wanted to start doing some like some weird stories maybe. So I grabbed a couple of stories off of the website that I had last week, and this is kind of a placeholder for now. But unless some listeners have a better idea for the title of this segment, I'm calling it "That's Some Weird Shit."
There
uh,
we go. I like
uh,
it.
that's some weird shit. The first one that came up is there's a story. It says here, monster hiding under a Kansas child's bed turns out to be real. Kansas babysitter got the shock of her life when she tried to show the child that there's no monster under their bed, only to find a complete stranger hiding there. It sounds like a cheap scare right out of a horror movie, but it happens just a few days ago in Kansas. A babysitter looking after her after children in her town of Great Bend was trying to calm the toddler down after they told her there was a monster under their bed. Uh, that's one of the most common fears small children and one of the easiest ways to calm them down is to show that there's nothing to fear. Only in this case, there really was someone under the child's bed. An unknown man who had been hiding there for who knows how long. As the women leaned down to check under the bed, the child's bed, she came face to face with a man, but instead of losing her cool, as most people surely would have in that situation, she confronted the stranger and even got into an altercation that caused one child to be knocked over. The strange man managed to escape, but the babysitter alerted the authorities and the suspect was shortly apprehended. The monster, in air quotes here, under the bed was identified as Martin Villalobos Jr. Villalobos Jr., 27, who once lived at the residence but had been ordered to stay away from the property under the protection from abuse order. Obviously, he couldn't stay away and now faces serious jail time. He is held in county jail on a $500,000 bond and is facing charges of aggravated burglary, aggravated battery, child endangerment, felony obstruction of the law, enforcement officer, and violation of protection from abuse order. I mean,
you're never going to be able to tell this kid nothing now. Like,
you're not going to be able to say, no, there's nothing under your. Well, I think what we're going to have to do at this point is you're going to have like those motion sensor cameras under the bed and a monitor on the wall so the kids can see there's nothing down there. So that was the first thing that popped up, and I'm like, oh wow, that's fucking terrifying. Can you imagine just like. I think I probably would have like lost my shit, but then I would have like grabbed the guy and pulled him out from under the bed. But I don't know. I don't know how I would have beyond that how I would react.
You don't know what the guy's got or
if he's got a weapon or if he's like
exactly.
If he's got like the fucking strung out meth head strength or whatever, you know. The other story I have here is the conspiracy theories about the whole Blue Origin.
Okay.
Yeah, so just all the people talking about how this is totally been fake. There's nothing real about it. I saw some videos about this earlier today. There's a photo that's been going around that shows like a mannequin hand in the window of the capsule, and it's been proven that is from a different time from like 2018 when they were doing
as a test
run. And but there's all these people talking about how that I've seen the video. I don't know if you've seen the video now of them going to open the capsule, and as they walk up, the capsule door just kind of pops open, and one of the people who was there is like, no, close it, and they close it back up. You don't hear them say that, but that's kind of the what you get from what you're seeing them doing, and they're just kind of like, no, close the door. And then Jeff Bezos, I guess, is also walking around the capsule, and he's picking up debris, like sticks and kicking things out of the way, and he's like stomping down some of the dirt kind of thing. And it's like, well, what are you doing that for? And then he goes to open the door with like this. It looks like some sort of like a tool for opening up, like a key for like a can of soup, And so he goes to put it on the door, and then the door just pops open again, and then that's when everybody comes out. And but this is what it says on this article. There's so much to celebrate back in April 14th when the crew consisting of 6 women, including singer Katy Perry, Jeff Bezos' fiance, former NASA rocket scientist Aisha Bowe, and there's one other person. So there's like 4 or 5 people in there. After the crew returned to Earth, however, the flight quickly became the focus of a number of wild conspiracy theories, with some even claiming that the entire mission was faked. Alleged abnormalities include everything from the door opening mechanism on the capsule to the way Katy Perry's hair looked in zero gravity. So, anyways, the hair thing, it looked fake. It looked like she was wearing a wig with like springs or something holding up pieces, like chunks of hair, or they were being held by strings. And it didn't look it didn't flow with like the weightlessness. Like, you know how hair would look if you're underwater, and how it just kind of like independently all the different hairs would like move. This was all like in chunks of hair moving around. It didn't look real. So that's why I think people thinking the whole thing was faked. So
Which a lot of times people just have no idea how it should look in zero gravity. Like they don't know what it should look like, so
yeah,
they've never been there.
I
And
mean,
and the whole thing, it would be kind of absurd to have faked this anyways, because they weren't even really going to space. They were just taking a plane ride that went really, really high, essentially.
yeah. I mean, they went to the outer atmosphere. I mean, they were at the
Yeah,
edge of space. Is where they were.
correct. Yeah. But it's not something that's impossible to do. It's not something we're unheard of.
Right.
Yeah.
But
But people will make a conspiracy out of anything.
I mean, you got to keep in mind that there are people in this day and age, in 2025, there are people who still believe the Earth is flat. They believe that we never went to the moon to begin with. You know, just the amount of insane things that people believe to be fact without any proof of it being true or not. So I don't know. Just these two stories were like the only ones that really kind of like seemed interesting to me. The rest of them were just like a lot of right wing conspiracy type stuff. So
Oh yeah, we could have a field day with that. Maybe we'll do a whole episode one day just on various right-wing conspiracies because
yeah. Well,
there's a lot.
speaking of like, going on talking about right wing conspiracies, did you actually listen to any of that podcast I sent you?
Not yet. I have not listened to that yet, but I do have I did subscribe, so I'm gonna listen to a few.
Okay. I discovered that podcast when watching there was a docuseries on Max called Q Into the Storm, and it was a documentary about how the whole QAnon thing started and how it became as popular as it is. And there was speculation on who was behind QAnon and who Q was, and
Right.
and
We have seen that.
in the like the 6 episodes, one of the I think episode 4 or 5 had these guys in this podcast. The podcast is now called QAA Podcast, the QAnon Anonymous Podcast, and it's just a group of 3 or 4 people who on every episode has a story about what the QAnon people are doing and what they believe, and what's the new thing that they're spouting is fact and truth and all this stuff. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to it. So again, that's the QAA, formerly the QAnon Anonymous podcast.
it just
And
if you go onto like Apple Podcast or whatever your podcasting app is, to search for QAA, no spaces, podcast, and it should come right up. But if you go onto Google and type in QAA podcast, you'll find their website, and links to their podcast will be there too. But
right on.
but yeah,
And in addition to that, I want to encourage people to check out Dark Branded on YouTube. Again, check out Heather Cox Richardson on Facebook or Substack. These are Dark Branded's more of a fun channel. Heather Cox Richardson is more of a serious take a look at things. But I think that's 2 places I'd like. I know I've mentioned them before. Just want to put that out there again.
yeah.
That's going to wrap up this week's episode. Next week, exciting announcement. We do have a guest set for next week, so
Ooh.
we're going to have fun with that. We'll have Brandon Popson on with us to hear a little bit about his story and his political journey. Again, assuming no last minute changes in schedule or anything like that. He just got back from Texas, so he has something to say about Texas too.
I bet.
We might be messing with Texas a little bit, Todd. We might. Prepare yourself.
I'm cool with that because I only have like 2 or 3 people I know that live down there, but they're not from there, so I don't feel like it would be I wouldn't be dissing my friends in any way, shape, or form. They just they live down there because it's cheap to live there. So
Yes, very much so. But that'll do it for this week. Please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and We'll see you next Sunday.
Feel free to leave comments down below on either on Spotify or on YouTube.
Yes.
You can leave comments on anything that we're talking about throughout the podcast here.
Yes, please
both
do,
of
because
those.
we will respond to those. We will respond to those the next week if anybody
Absolutely.
leaves a comment or a
Leave
question
comment.
or anything. So
I actually, speaking of comments, I got a comment on one of the shorts that I posted, which was basically just a cut down version of the podcast. Somebody was like, you shouldn't be posting this kind of stuff on YouTube. Kids are gonna see this. I was like, no, they're not, because I marked this as 18 plus, and kids will not see this. So you go ahead and report, but you're not gonna.
oh yeah, we're the bad thing on the internet that kids are going to see. Yeah, that's us.
I
Yeah.
mean, this person was mad because we were talking about the Minecraft movie, but we were on the video. They were showing like screenshots of like news stories about like the stuff we were talking about on that episode. And he was like, "Well, that's not okay. You can't be posting that kind of stuff when you're talking about stuff that kids are gonna like." I was like, "Well, kids aren't gonna see my video because it's marked as 18 plus, and they're never gonna see it unless they are on their parents' account, which they shouldn't be, But it wouldn't be anything I would be in charge of, So yeah.
Yeah. But hey, at least it's some engagement. We'll take it.
Yeah, no, it's engagement, But yes, see you guys next week, and I'm looking forward to talking to Brandon.
Right on. Thanks, everybody.
Forget the rules, I make my own. Zigzag thoughts I've overgrown. Chasing sparks in every lane. Don't try to fix what fuels this flame. ADHD, we're running wild. Focus fading, chaotic child. Turn the volume up, take a ride. In this crazy storm, I can't hide. Call me restless, call me loud. Living life outside the crowd. Fast and messy, that's my deal. This spinning madness feels so real. ADHD, we're running wild. Focus fading, chaotic child. Turn the volume up, take a ride. In this crazy storm, I can't hide.